And last week, the Democratic Party Executive Committee of California said no to Dianne Feinstein and yes to endorse Kevin De Leon's bid for U.S. Senate. So Phil Matier and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, where does this put the party going forward?
It really creates a problem because you understand you fund the slate cards, you fund all the things that the Democratic Party endorses. Many people are going to pull their resources back. They are for Dianne Feinstein, which means you got a fractured operation trying to compete to win 7 seats net in California for Nancy Pelosi. Won't happen.
You mean the House of Representatives seats?
That's correct.
How tight are they?
How tight are
the 7 representative seats here in California?
Oh, well, you know, depending on whose poll you look at, they can be anywhere from, 10 points to even lower. And we've seen some Democrats do some really good fundraising on their own. But to Mr. Brown's point, the fact that they may be pulling back their money from the party because they want to make sure to preserve those resources.
Now, both you watch closely Dianne Feinstein's political operation and Kevin De Leon's political operation. Let's just cut to it. How did she not manage to get 1/3 of the votes that would have stopped this?
I mean, it's pretty amazing. He, though, has been lobbying relentlessly for months and months, calling people, going to all the events and really being a presence while she has had a lot of work to do in Washington, D.C. So he made a real play, I think, in a way that he could and definitely chose to.
And it just shows you how powerful the legislator can really be. If the legislator really wants to work at it, Dianne probably hasn't visited any one of the towns from which these people come for living purposes. And believe me, I just don't understand how you don't check everybody.
Now, going forward, however, we have a wing of the party. This was the Bernie-crats, the left wing of the party, basically saying, we want to set a new agenda. That's what they're saying. Does that help the Democrats win in this state?
No, it does not. The Democrats are going to win in this state, Phil, because of the overwhelming numbers of registered Democrats, because of the incredible second team, i.e. the independents. Right. The Republicans are almost like endangered species, and they aren't going to win anything, period. And with this business of the top 2 tier in each primary, it's all over.
What does this do nationally for the party? Is this a Tea Party movement?
Well, I think it hurts Senator Feinstein. I mean, if you look at certain right-wing media outlets, they say, oh, look at her. She doesn't even have the support of her own party in California. We shouldn't necessarily be listening to her or giving her the gravitas that she might have had before.
I just think that the Democratic Party in this state represents something dramatically different from the rest of the nation, and therefore they'll have very little influence on what happens in the rest of the nation. Could very well cost Kamala Harris a serious bid for the presidency.
So she's the establishment candidate. She is the incumbent. Is this anything more than tilting at windmills to give the endorsement to someone else, or is there some other tangible benefits to that?
Well, he'll be able to be on all the party slate cards. He'll be able to fundraise at party events. So say the California Democratic Party throws a big shindig and it's raising money for the party. He'll be able to be there and fundraise as well. So there's a lot of money and exposure that comes with that. Will it be enough to put him ahead of her? I'm fairly skeptical that that will be the thing, but he will definitely get a tangible financial boost from this endorsement. And Phil Matier and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown about the week this president has had.
It's an incredible presidency. He manages to be the top of every news story. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised he ended the top of the news story with us. How else do you start the conversation and get the attention of the average voter? Trump knows how to do that.
Well, and I think there's something that could be a problem for folks on the left if they get too crazy about the Russia stuff. I mean, there are a lot of folks on the right who say, we don't care. We don't care if you take Crimea. We don't care if, we just want some peace and we'll believe kind of whatever.
You're right, exactly. The people in the Central Valley couldn't care less about Russia. They're concerned about water. The person in Los Angeles, it's traffic. You have your concerns. But Mayor Brown, have you ever seen anybody go back and forth on what they said and didn't say so fast in a week? Aside from yourself.
Sometimes it's necessary, Phil, to keep explaining what you actually meant. Although you said it inappropriately, you said it inartistically, you need to quickly correct it. And believe me, correcting it before it's printed the second time is a good thing. He understands that.
It wasn't just what he said. It was how he looked, how he acted. The whole presentation in front of everybody was like, what is with this guy?
But Phil, nobody knew that he was talking to a potential house guest. He's got this guy coming. I mean, it's like an Airbnb. He's coming.
And I still don't understand why the invite. After all this, after all the hoopla that he kicked up after the meeting in his sort of obsequiousness, why then invite him to Washington, D.C.?
No, he had already made that decision. Believe me, in the meeting, in the private meeting, he said, why don't you come to dinner? And the guy said, not bad. If you make sure you got some caviar. And clearly, they had that discussion. And believe me, he just didn't know how to lay it on us. By the way, he's coming to dinner. You know, you can screw up very easily when somebody says, should or should you not marry somebody? And yeah, he's terrible. And they said, well, maybe you're not coming to the wedding. Trump should have told us.
You know, I'd be really curious to see what the next round of polling says about whether or not this issue in particular gets any traction with his base.
Well, I mean, because you've seen sort of this varying, this sort of, I changed my mind, I said the wrong word, and then he keeps leaving the door open, and he says, oh, well, I think Russia did it, but other people too. And then you see that his base isn't really reacting one way or the other. They seem to be still pretty committed to him, and they just say, oh, well, he's just trying to keep the peace. So I'm not sure this has as much the kind of legs that I think some folks on the left think it should have, or maybe wish it would have among his base.
Yeah, very often it seems like his base is somewhat impervious to the drumbeat of criticism that often surrounds his president.
Well, I think that they've got their own priorities, and that's what they're concerned with, and then the rest of it is not necessarily something they're gonna spend too much time on.